It is 6:01. I'd call the meeting to order. Thanks for coming. Nice to see so many friendly faces. Agenda review and disposition. Is there anything to add?
I have nothing to add or take away.
Okay, perfect. Minutes of August 12th. You guys get a chance to read the minutes?
Yes.
Do you have any questions about them? Is there any corrections that needed to be done?
I didn't do anything.
Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes as stated?
I will make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Recognition and rewards. Nothing?
I'm
This.
gonna take that off for the next one. I think it's left on from when we did it.
Retirement, it's left
Oh,
out
yeah.
for retirement.
I mean, we should recognize
Yeah.
teachers every single day for all the hard work, but you know. All right, we'll pass it over to Tanya and start with the principal's report.
Good evening. In front of you, you have a document that summarizes what I'm going to talk about right now. You'll see that our enrollment K through 8 is 365 students. Our total enrollment is 392. That difference is the pre-K numbers, which is 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds who are enrolled in our pre-K, but maybe from other towns within the SAU. So just to recap, we have 2 homerooms in kindergarten of 13 each. We have 3 homerooms in first grade, 2 at 13 and 1 at 14 students. We have 3 homerooms in second grade, all with 16 students in the homeroom. We have 2 homerooms at third grade, 1 with 16 and 1 with 17 students. We have 2 homerooms in the fourth grade, 1 with 17 and 1 with 18 students. We have 3 homerooms in fifth grade, 2 with 16, 1 with 17. 3 homerooms in third grade, 2 with 16, 1 with 17. 2 homerooms in seventh grade, 1 with 19 and 1 with 18, and 3 homerooms in eighth grade, all with 16 students at home. So our range is between 13 and 19 per homeroom. We did break it out visually for you, so you would see how many students are in each wing. So there are 114 students K-2 in the primary wing, 117 students in third through fifth grade, and 134 students in the middle school. Moving down to the bottom of the page, first page of the document that I put in front of you is a wonderful report around academic achievement for the elementary school. I think that I had spoken with you last month about what our building proficiency level was for math, ELA, and science. And just to recap for those of you who are in the audience. For Plymouth Elementary School, our proficiency rate for math in the spring of 2024, so just last spring, was 52% of the students were proficient in math. For the state of New Hampshire, the average is 41%. So we are above the state average for proficiency in math. In ELA, our building proficiency level is 59%, but for the state of New Hampshire, the proficiency rate is 53%. So again, we are above the state average. And in science, our building proficiency, we're only tested in science, we only test students in the 5th and 8th grades, so it's only 2 grades. But that is 47% that's proficient, and for the state of New Hampshire, it's 36% proficient. So we are above average in all of those areas. On the second page of the document in front of you, I gave you a bigger breakdown. The top half of the page 2 is ELA, and the bottom half of that page is math. It's broken down first by grade level and then longitudinally for both ELA and math, and then for science on the final page. Rather than recap all of those numbers for you right now, I'm going to give you time to think about that over the course of the next month and ask questions if you'd like to ask any questions about that. I had spoken a little bit about the trends, and I think it's worth noting that overall our trends are on the word. Print.
Tanya, you mentioned that last year they did 2 different sort of state tests and that this year you were only gonna be doing 1.
Nope,
Okay,
every year we only do one state test,
okay,
and that is the SAS,
okay.
New Hampshire SAS, New Hampshire.
Ames Web is the one?
Right, so we used to do NEWA and we had started to use Ames Web as well.
Yeah,
And the district as a whole decided that we were only gonna do one district assessment.
okay.
And that's what the SAU as a whole decides.
So do these numbers reflect those other tests, or this
No,
is
this
just
is-
stats only?
That's what we're ranked on.
Okay,
Just for SAS, just for
Okay.
the state assessment, not for the district assessment.
okay, that's helpful.
It would be a lot of data to take you through the Ames Web in this short of a meeting. As we move ahead, maybe we will get there, but I think at this point, just trying to educate the whole community around the state assessments and where we are there is a good place for us to be focused.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
Tanya, I know you said you didn't want to get into the numbers, but
But, yeah,
can you just walk us through how to read the level 1, 2, 3, 4?
yes, so level 4 is proficient with distinction. Level 3 is proficient. Level 2 is approaching proficiency, and level 1 is below proficient. So proficiency rates are anyone in category 3 or 4.
Proficient is anyone in category 3 and 4.
Correct. If you take the very first grade 3 ELA row, right here, and you move across,
Yeah.
29% plus 29% is 58% proficient.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
the table below that, which is the longitudinal, is looking across time. How has
The same class.
the thing, well, the teaching at that grade level been proficient, right? If you wanna look at the same class, if you looked at the column 2020, 2021, which was 3rd grade, right? 52% were proficient in 2020, 2021. You with me, Sam?
Mhm.
Yep,
If you go to the next year, you would go to the 4th grade. That same group of
Correct.
students a year later,
yep,
56% were proficient.
Yep.
The next year, 58%, the next year, 56.
got it.
I will point out to you, the 4th grade went from 31% to 42% to 50% to 60%, right?
Yeah.
So what you wanna see, right, is that more and more kids are becoming proficient over time, something we talk about in schools. It's not a professional term,
So we're
but do we
ranked on-
own the kids? Are they students that we've had through the years? How are our kids progressing through time?
Mhm.
So we're ranked on proficiency level and growth. It used to not have growth be included in that. It used to just be if you're proficient or not. But now they look at a child over time,
Okay,
which is a little bit more. fair.
so,
Both of those numbers for us look good.
Mhm.
so how much, like, if a student doesn't test well, how negatively does that impact these numbers?
Well, it's one person out of,
300?
no, 270, because it's only 3rd grade and up.
Okay,
So.
Okay.
I think at that point, it's more important to look at the student's growth. Are they growing over time? Are they developing? Do we see on the district assessment some? The nice thing about a district assessment is we're able to dig down a little bit deeper and see what's the weakness about. Is it test taking or is it a skill deficit? Is it self-regulation or is it fines? You know what, so we have those internal conversations here. No one assessment is ever the way to look at a child or human, so we always think more broadly about kiddos, but it's also important that we do look at how we're doing as a building.
Right.
Then just briefly, I wanted in the area of staffing, we are fully staffed at the building, which if you are following the regional news, not the case in other schools. So we have a new world language teacher, a new first grade teacher, a fourth grade teacher certified as a long-term sub, and we hired a new art teacher last year. So I think it's important for the community to always be thinking we are fully staffed, to know that we are fully staffed. Our support staff, we're fully staffed custodial crew for the first time in a long time, hooray. And we are well staffed for parent educators. There's constantly shifting move-ins and move-outs, but we are in much better shape than we have been in the last year and a half in that regard.
Can I ask you a question about the math? There's a lot more variation in the math proficiency. Why is that?
Well, for one thing, we had a new math program. Start in 2020, so I think as our staff have gotten more comfortable with that, you know, it's taking some time. And developmentally, I think, in my opinion, abstract thinking comes at very different developmental stages for kids. Once you become a good writer, you sort of build your writing skills in a much more step-by-step way. Math, problem solving and abstract thinking is less sequential. Even though math is sequential topics, I think that you can have a third grader who really understands abstract problem solving, and to me, it feels much more bumpy developmentally for kiddos, is one thing I think about that. I also think we have been focusing on ELA with a much more bigger magnifying glass. So we are, as a building, thinking about our math instruction.
And what is the math program right now? Is that
Into math.
into math? And that's from Math and Focus? No, from,
No, it's from Harcourt HMH
and when was that transition?
2020.
2020.
Okay. Is it more difficult for the kids who are moving in from other districts to adapt to that program? Would you say?
I think it's a heavy duty language program. I don't necessarily think it has to do with move-ins.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of reading involved in the program, and so you can have compounding issues for the math achievement very quickly.
As well as I'm sure for science.
Yes. I would point out here that Jen Weatherby, who is the 7th and 8th grade science teacher, well, this year 6th, 7th and 8th grade science teacher, said she doesn't think that the teachers in this building or any group of teacher or adults would find it easy to be proficient on the science test for the state of New Hampshire at the 5th or 8th grade level, that it is an extremely, extremely hard test. So the fact that we are above the state average is remarkable. In the area of facilities, our building and grounds are in great shape. We're still finishing some furniture pieces in this for the library and conference room, just so you know, we'll work those out in the next 6 months. The middle school swing set will be installed in October, but the Gaga pit went in a week or so ago. And it's been great to see kids outside using the Gaga pit. And Mark, Everett, and I will be working on the CIP in the next 2 months, so that in November, when we start to look at the budget, we look at the capital improvement plan, what CIP stands for. Finally, under a big wide selection of other things that I wanted to make you aware of, we have a new co-curricular policy that you unanimously endorsed last month. And I want to give you sort of an update on that because we had our first round of checking grades. We have 134 students in the middle school in total. 12 students had one or more failing grade as of last Friday at noon. Only one of those 12 students participates in co-curricular activities, which I think is worth us paying attention to, because yes, it is important for co-curricular, but it also makes me say, okay, what are we doing for the kiddos who are less engaged in school and not doing well in school to support them to learn really good school habits? So,
And what sort of supports have you put in place for those students? Obviously, you recognize who those
so we have
students
an
are.
after-school ask program 2 days a week.
Okay,
We have the before-school ask program, but I believe that's full at this point, so that would be drop-in only if I can staff people.
mhm.
And then we will have recess and lunch availability to support folks. We also have a daily wind block for 45 minutes. That. As I think about the kiddos on that list, I think all of those kids are in what we call our middle school wind block 5 days a week, so they're not engaged in band and chorus either. So again, another marker there. So. We're still building our plan for how we engage our disengaged folks, but I will continue to update you on that.
So that one student who participates in co-curricular activities is out for a week?
He's on probation for a week, working to get his grade above a 60.
Excellent.
Summer reading has a lot of weight in the middle school, so that if you do not do your summer reading, it is very difficult, especially at this time of year, to have a passing grade. But it was not just ELA. We had kids in social studies, science. It was not, I think it's also good to look, is it one class, one grade, one period, you really need to look at that data globally in order to begin to figure out how to respond.
Is this new policy? Is this also a change in how we're tracking students that are less engaged?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good, and I think it's a good development.
Yeah.
And I think the first step is identifying who may need more support and how to address that.
Right. We have been, printing grades, making to-do lists, supporting kids. I would never want to say that we hadn't been supporting kids who were struggling,
Sure.
but I think looking at it globally across the whole middle school is new.
With deadlines.
With deadlines and systems is new.
Yeah.
I wanted to let you and the community know, we are going to have a community conversation about cell phones, social media, and wearable technology Tuesday, October 1st at 4 p.m. here in the library. That, as we talked about at the last board meeting, looking at the impacts of social media on the mental health of our young adults, and thinking about the distractibility in the classrooms. Is what we're going to do. So we've set a date and a time, and now I'll work on the structure of that conversation. I would very much like it if any of you could attend. We're not going to do an RSVP, it will be open, but we will do lots of reminders to the community so that they can come. We had talked about that at the last board meeting.
Is it something that PBTV will be able to record?
I don't think that that's appropriate, actually. I think that there may be parents who want to talk about some private things, so
Okay.
I'm gonna say no to that, that this should be a conversation with people in person
I was just thinking
Connection.
I was just thinking that 4 p.m. timeframe is difficult for parents that work.
So we tried to do it at a time when there was practice, but not a game. So we went through the entire schedule. We chose a day when there are no games, only practices, and we were thinking that it's right before you pick up. So it's kids are busy, middle school kids in particular, many of them are busy at practice, so they're not attending the meeting. So we chose the time pretty thoughtfully.
Teachers, are they attending too?
They'll be invited to attend.
Some.
I appreciate the no recording. Is there gonna be a Zoom option or not for this particular one?
We can make a Zoom participation available, but I think not recorded.
That makes sense.
Yes,
I
yep.
mean, I just was thinking for the parent that's working, that may want to be involved.
Right.
And can't get there.
We've also
for 4
talked about it at the
So-
PTA meetings, which start at 6:30 PM. At least twice, so I will continue to, I will put it on the agenda for the October meeting with the PTA, which is at 6:30 PM. I think rather than having a whole another event for parents to attend, I would just embed it with the PTA because that's after work hours.
That's a good idea. Thank you. I just want to make sure that we're
Yeah.
reaching everybody.
Yeah,
You could always invite people to submit a letter or something.
or an email.
Right.
Yeah.
So did we just make 2 events just to,
No, so, no.
One event and the
One event's gonna
regularly
be the
scheduled
PTA meeting.
PTA meeting.
so no longer 4 PM?
No,
No,
this
this one.
stands as one event.
And
And then the PTA meeting in October, I will also
Okay,
have it be on the agenda and talk about it there, because that's after work hours.
right, so there are 2 opportunities for community and parents to engage.
Yes.
Right.
I wanted to let you know that we are working on digital payment. So as of October 1st, we hope to have digital payment for things like field trips, preschool tuition, or other things up and running through Power School. So in fact, we will no longer be accepting cash payments for preschool. As we start with field trips, we'll probably allow cash payments for a little while, but we will be moving towards digital or check payment only. And so that we are not transferring cash between multiple people.
Is that anticipated to have a significant impact?
No. I'm just notifying you so that everyone knows, so they're not surprised.
And you're utilizing Power School for that?
There's an add-on to Power School called, I think it's called Vanco. That will embed all that information and how to do it.
Cool.
And lastly, I wanted to let you know that we are excited to announce that we have a new partnership with the rec department, Sierra. And they will be partnering with us this year to run winter program. So we will be running our student registration and all of our site level communication and our bus communication through the rec department. And the office will be in charge of payment and staff assignments. And we're very thankful for that because it is a mountain of challenges for Jenny mostly. So it's really nice to have some support and facilitation for that.
That's awesome.
Also, the rec department and the PTA are, wanting to continue to support the Jingle Bell Run. And I think as we, work together with a group of folks who've been involved in the Jingle Bell Run, thinking about how we can have a long-term plan for winter program and the Jingle Bell Run.
That's awesome. That's really good news.
Was Park and Rec gonna take over the Jingle Bell Run too? No,
Not yet.
it's just the,
They're just the
Fundraising.
winter program piece of it.
because that's a big fundraiser for winter program.
Yes, and that is through, those funds go through PTA, but it's a small group of people, Fran involved, Kathy Crane, Sarah Sanborn, and Eleni Panagoulis, who have been, really making that event happen every year. And they, I think, love it, and we love having them be involved, but we're also thinking about how do we relinquish a little bit and take on a little bit.
On to the younger generation.
Yeah.
I can say that.
You can say it,
Yeah, we've done it plenty of years.
It's
Um,
great event.
so we're moving in that direction. We're thinking that winter program will continue to be 5 weeks, 3 weeks for the middle school, 5 weeks for K-5. We're not expanding, we're not diminishing any sites, we're just holding steady with what we've got, it's working, we're not,
And at Loon,
no. At
Waterville, okay.
Because of two things, just so the community knows, but number one, Loon is much more expensive, and two, we really like Fridays. So Fridays, in terms of instructional rhythm, really works.
Mhm.
And to pick up, to make it a Tuesday makes,
It's rough.
it makes things really hard. So that's why. As a family that skis, I understand why people say, but Luke's terrain is so much better, but we have lots of other sites and we need to make it work.
It's a good mountain, too.
Mhm.
And they're within SAU 48, so it's also supporting,
Sure.
That's good.
yep, so then
Still Friday mornings.
Friday mornings.
Thank you for all you do with them, Jen.
Kelly?
Good.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna start with athletics first. That everybody is underway. And we had team photos today for the soccer teams and football. The cross-country field hockey and volleyball, they'll have theirs later on September 25th. I'm fortunate that our photographer is great and does a nice job and can give me 2 dates, because trying to do every single team in one day can be a little challenging. Once again, our physicals are being offered here on September 26th through Plymouth Pediatrics, right in the nurse's office. And then I just wanted to give you an idea of just the numbers that are out there, that's the different teams. So at cross country, we have 17 participating, field hockey is 21, football's at 18. Soccer has a combination of 34, 18, and 7 for a total of 59 soccer kids. Volleyball's at 28 for a grand total of 143 kids. So some of our sports, you know, it's always is in waves. Numbers go up in some sports, go down in others, but all the teams are out there. They're doing great. Everybody's got a event under their belt so far, with the exception of cross country, who starts next week with their actual running events. So everybody's doing good. In terms of safety, we had our first safety committee meeting last September 4th. And a couple of things that we are working on, working with Plymouth PD to set up a date, potentially looking sometime mid-October for an active shooter training for parents. I will say that that training is 2 hours long. It's actually longer, but they have got it down to the minimum of 2 hours, with, you know, not really being able to cut it any shorter. So
What does that summarize?
what does what summarize?
Active shooter training for parents.
So it's called, like, the program that's out now, because they sometimes just change the title. And I know Tanya doesn't like the title of it. It's called CRAZE, Civilian Response for Active Shooter Emergency.
Okay.
And so it's actually very good for, I know we did it a couple of years ago under a different title. But you know, any of us that are working in any work environment, you know, how do you respond? What do you do? Kind of the action steps that you would take if that happened in your workplace, in your school, wherever you might be, you know.
Parents have been requesting it.
Yeah, so I know it was mentioned at the last board meeting, so we're trying to bring that back. When we were just talking about time previously, we were thinking like a 6 o'clock, but I'm gonna ask the parents that are here today, would that be a good time, a little earlier? Or it is, remember, it's a 2-hour training, so would you want to be at 6, or would you, as a parent, if you were attending?
Like 6, yeah, they shove dinner.
Gives you time to, that's kind of the thought. Okay. So, so when we get that date set, that's likely what it would be, 6 to 8. I would like to have some type of, just a confirmation of people that are coming, because I think, quite honestly, it would be, Officer Diamond that would be doing the training. You know, to talk to 2 people in the room for 2 hours could be a little bit, you know, tougher for him. So I'm thinking maybe at least a minimum of 10 or something like
I
that.
just wanna, while we're on the topic, I know it's not privileged yet, but he did ours at work and it was fantastic. So you have to tell your friends to come. It's so engaging.
Yeah.
And makes it
Right.
relatable.
And I think the more people sometimes that you get in, the more questions can be asked, in scenarios and different spaces that you might be working in. So, so it'd be good. So stay tuned on that one. We're working on that. In terms of the faculty and staff, we were also hoping to do it. We had first initially, thought of a faculty meeting, but obviously it's too long to be fit into a faculty meeting. So at the safety committee, they talked about potentially having something in between the sports seasons, because we have a lot of people right now that are faculty and coaching, and so that they could attend it, and it would probably be something very similar, some evening, or maybe we could start a little bit earlier with faculty and staff, and find a date for that. We held our first fire drill, last Thursday, the 5th at 1:45. Everybody did a great job. Again, always thanks to Plymouth Fire Department for their assistance. And obviously we'll have more drills to come throughout the year. Our new faculty and staff have been asked to see, Mr. Ramsey for assistance having the Informacast emergency app put on their, smartphone, because that is something that we will try to test as well when we do our drills. And make sure that those are all working properly for folks.
What does that have to do, Ms. Carey?
What's that?
What does that have to do?
So
It allows you to reach people.
yeah. So in real time, you can hit it.
Passes dispatch.
Right.
It's like
Right.
texting for a large group quickly,
Mhm.
so you can give really important information very quickly to everybody.
Right. And the nice thing about that, I always think too, is let's say you're on a field trip and you're on your way back with a bus full of kids, and you see your phone and something, you get word before you even get here, that you could just detour the bus driver and say, we need to wait this out. So it's it's a nice silent communication.
It's also very nice, can I just say, for the staff, because we feel like we know what's going on,
Mhm.
I'm sure.
so.
Right. Yes, bus evacuation drill, we have scheduled for Thursday, September 26th in the morning. So, safety committee members and myself will be taking care of that. And, Officer Bone and I are also, working on another date to set up an offsite evacuation drill. And that's where we go over to the high school. We would evacuate our building first, walk all the kids over to the high school, redo our attendance there. And then once we're all settled there, we come back. A lot of times the high school, as we go there and we settle in, then the high school comes here. And so they practice as well. So working on that. And then I did just want to mention voting day tomorrow, obviously, that, we do put in safety, precautions in place on those days. Obviously, Plymouth PD will be here on site all day and throughout the voting process. And we made our adjustments internally here as to our foot traffic patterns and where, people can go, not go. And same thing with outside and the recesses and that too. So we're just keeping kids safe because we know there's going to be a lot of traffic out there as well. So all of those are put in place. We should be good to go.
If you go by the number of signs, I think it'll be a big turnout.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of signs.
I know.
The mailings.
And
Sure, a lot of mailing.
That's right.
Kelly, going back to the active shooter training,
Mhm.
to what extent does that correlate to what the kids are receiving for training? Like if parents are interested in seeing what their kids are seeing,
Mhm.
is this the training for them, or is this sort of separate?
Separate. I think as a parent, it's, you're gonna use your parental judgment, but, maybe an 8th grader, I don't think I'd be bringing the younger kids to it. I think this is something we really want to offer just for the adults.
Right, but so it's
Because
not.
there is video, there's scenarios, there's, it could be a little too
General
much.
citizenship, it's not specific to the kids in this school or what procedures they should follow or anything like that.
No,
It's a standalone session for adults.
Correct.
When I did it last time, Sam, it was more geared for like if we were in the building and things for us to kind of think about as parent and volunteers when we're here.
Yeah.
Whether that's before school, after school, or during school.
Yeah.
Right, but what would you do? Right.
And a little bit about how and why our emergency operations plan is developed. We don't share our EOP because that's a private document, but the craze training involves content that's not developmentally appropriate, K to
It's
at least
definitely
6.
geared towards
And I
adults.
was not even, many 7th graders as well. And even, it's challenging for adults.
Sure. Sure.
I'm all set.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. Privilege of the floor, number one. Yes.
Multiple clarifying questions. First on the athletics and the grades, you said middle school. Are you including the fifth graders on fifth grade teams?
In those numbers?
In the watching the grades, yeah, to make sure that they're passing.
Oh, no, the
No.
co-curricular.
No co-curricular, we're giving them a buy of fifth grade because
It's different.
it's different, it's different. We
But it
do
would
review
help like
grades,
clear for those,
yeah,
you know, other children who don't like to do their school.
Yes.
And I may or may not have. So that's.
we also do not put their grades in Power School, so running a report for them. They are not.
It's a good warning though for middle school, so that's a conversation to know that we can have with them.
Mhm.
Okay. On the community conversation on the first, it is the high school board meeting night, I think, Kyla? Is that right? It's a
Tuesday.
Probably, we only have like 4 weeks back up, but that.
I know, I'm trying to be reasonable, but I noticed this is at 4, so that's at 5, I think. Like, is it a long conversation you expect?
No, I think it'll be 45 minutes at I don't expect it to be, it is beginning the conversation around the impacts. Both for to mental health and to distractibility, as we had talked about last month, as a whole region, we are really thinking hard about our kiddos and our adults and what it all means to be engaged all the time.
That was my second question. Is it focused about use in school or is it just in general with the mental health impact? Because that's a huge, I think, need.
I think it's
is-
both. At this
It's
point,
a
it's
while
both.
behind the policy.
Okay,
Correct. I
Yeah.
mean, that didn't come from,
Yeah.
that was the biggest piece.
so it's focused on the policy in the school, not so much, this is what you can do for like, you have.
I would say it's
concerns about
broader.
mental
Yeah.
health.
I would say it's broader than that. I think I'm also trying to lead the conversation with parents right now around, it's not actually just about school. We should be saying to each other, in my opinion, personal opinion, third graders don't need a cell phone. The impact of your children being on social media all the time is long-term and life-changing. And it's a public health issue. It's the Surgeon General has come out about this, and we as a community need to engage each other in the hard conversations and talk about it.
Yeah, and I would agree. My concern, I have no concerns with the wearable policy whatsoever, so I
Yeah.
didn't want to come, that was the focus. My concerns are the broader.
I think it's, to
Trying
me,
to
it's
navigate
much broader.
teenagers.
It's much broader and actually trying to build. Sometimes parents need to link arms and say, no, we as a community, and I know that there are 17 other kids in the class whose parents are saying, no, everyone does not have Instagram. Everyone does not have Snapchat, and this is why. And that if we lead that conversation as well-informed, child-centered people, we're doing right by our kids.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you. The last piece I just want to mention was about the shooter training. I'm so grateful that that's coming back. My only point, I had talked to Officer Diamond when he came to my work. I asked him about the school policies. So I know this is not focused on the school, but there's confusing messaging between parent and child about what is the right thing to do. Because what I'm taught is different from what they're taught. And I respect that we don't want to release policy for privacy reasons, but I think just touching on how parents can support the message the kids are getting, because it is a different message. And what I learned back in the day is not what they're learning today. So there's some confusion about, my kid lives 2 blocks over here, go run home. And that's what Officer Guinan would have done with his kids, but that's not necessarily the best thing to do, and here's why. So there's some confusing.
And I would say that the current, recommendations are actually not to always shelter.
Right,
It sometimes is to run and is to fight, and is to hide. And I think that is very unsettling. Adults, often want, and kids often want, well, tell me what to do, tell me what to do, tell me what to do. And what the research is showing, unfortunately, after these events, is that sometimes the right thing to do is to run.
Yeah.
And that, for, like, we want our kids to be taken care of by adults, right? And I do think that we need to educate parents that the current training around this, what's the acronym?
Civilian response to.
No.
What?
Deny,
Oh,
defend,
yeah. Avoid
avoid, deny, defend, and that's really a different language.
So we've had this conversation, and this is just feedback, we
Yes.
talked to Officer Diamond,
Yeah.
but, I mean, there's no bad training, it's all really valuable. But when we talk about it as a family, and we're saying run home, and they're saying, I'm not allowed to do that.
Right.
So then we're like, okay, well, what's the right thing? I don't care what you're told, go home. Like, if you can go and it's safe, go home,
Right.
get out of here.
And
Right,
that,
and
that
So they're,
has,
they're confused,
Yeah.
which is why I wanna help support them so that they know exactly what they can.
Yeah, we'll, thank you. I think that's good information for us. I will also just, I do wanted to say, planning and preparing for this and doing the drills is really important. And it creates a lot of anxiety for many, many children. So we're balancing what we talk about with kids with what the guidance is always, right? How much anxiety are we creating and balancing safety at the same time? So we'll, thank you,
Yeah.
we'll work with the local specialists and use departments to figure that out.
Is there anyone on Zoom? No, something? Okay. Oh, yeah, shoot.
Related, and maybe it's more for the community conversation, but it is directly related to a social media type fundraiser that happened at the school last year that I know was very successful. I have a 9-year-old and almost 6-year-old, and they thankfully, knock on wood, are not in the social media realm, but that fundraiser was really promoted and was successful and did get them reading, but it was, oh, look at that, my friend liked what I read, oh, they responded, oh, this is so cool. And I could, they immediately started to get hooked on that. So it was great because it met the kids who are already using social media, but as a parent who's trying to tread lightly, it was just maybe if we could evaluate how low we go in that grade level with that type of fundraiser. And so
That's
again,
good
it
feedback,
might
thank you,
be
we'll think about that.
just because he started to get very addicted to this, which in that case with reading, so great, but it was sort of.
That's a message.
That's a mixed message.
Yeah, to the,
Maybe,
so that was all.
maybe keeping track, like, old school with a thermometer.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, look at Mr. So-and-so's class read blah, blah, blah books versus it.
And again,
Yeah.
Those thermometers were effective.
And it stayed contained to that, it didn't. But I was sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, is this the introduction to the social media in that realm? So just sort of.
Thank you for the
That
feedback.
is good.
That's interesting.
Discussion items. Yeah.
Ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
There we go.
All right.
Ready.
There we go.
Two policies this month, I'm gonna kind of link those together, discussion items number 1 and 3. Not asking you to review them tonight, it's the first draft read, so take the month, look at it, we'll come back to it. To be honest, we may drag out the Title IX policies a little bit more, there's just a few pieces within that nationwide that's in litigation with the Supreme Court and conflicts, and we're gonna do a first read and hold to see if anything changes in the next month or two, make sure we're not adopting something that might shift. So just leaving that right there, the first read is tonight. The other piece is a compliance issue, number 3, Title I, if you receive Title I monies, which we do, yeah, you need to have this policy, so here it is. It's developed by the New Hampshire School Boards Association, basically saying what we have to do
to accept the fund for engagement with families, and there's certain criteria as far as, meeting with parents and open houses, you have to communicate with them, and multiple modalities, so that's the last page after all those other. It's a one-page policy,
And they
that
wrote
other
that,
one.
the National
Is it this one?
Support Association wrote that?
Yes.
I think they could probably take another edit of it.
Yeah,
There
take
were
another.
typos in
There was a few,
first,
okay.
like sentence after
Yeah.
sentence after sentence.
Oh, that's good. to know.
Can I ask what's
Uh,
motivating the update for this?
What's that?
What's motivating the update for the non-discrimination, equal opportunity employment and anti-discrimination plan? Is it-
Change in federal title.
So we're
Yeah.
advised to update this.
Update, to update the policy, to track that, yeah, so there's a change in Title IX.
I would just,
To be implemented, you already have
can you
to,
just tell me AC, ACA, AC, what did each of those stand for?
so. So policy AC is non-discrimination, equal opportunity of employment,
Right.
EOE, and then anti-discrimination plan is ADP. And this is one of those, required by law. It is, we just had to do one a few years ago too. Policy ACA, discrimination and harassment grievance procedure, which there's been a change in that, and how we investigate any issues with Title IX.
Right. I understand that part, I just wasn't sure what the AC stood for, or.
Oh, the AC.
What
Is
are
it
they?
lettering for organization?
What is it?
Is it, I was wondering, is it organization?
I wasn't sure, is it just a legal, like this is the
That's what we
number?
Usually they're
Like
coded.
a JC or.
They're coded by,
It's a code,
administrative policies, student policies. So
okay,
they'll have like a J in front of them, they'll
Right,
have an
that's
I in
right.
front of them.
yeah,
So these came from the state largely?
This is from New Hampshire School Board
New
Association,
Hampshire.
it's from the,
okay,
their,
okay.
So the A and the C don't necessarily stand.
it's a coding, it's
Okay.
where you put it in your policy handbook.
Right, so it's like non-acronym.
So
Right.
KB doesn't mean
Correct.
okay.
So like I said, take a look at it, it may shift, but I'm not sure, so we're just gonna leave that. For right now, then the Title I, engagement policy, that just came through from the Title I auditors. So I will take a look at it, before I bring it to the next meeting. Just one other side note, the SAU wide enrollment, just as a point of interest. We're usually around 1,900 kids SAU wide, we're at 1,880. Two schools had significant drops, one being Plymouth Elementary School. So it's just something to consider as we move through the budget. In the next few months, Hampton went down 22 kids. Plymouth went down the most, down 24 kids. Overall, I'm down 30 SAU wide, so you can see where, some went up, some went down. High school went up quite significantly. And it's really, you have some low numbers in your classes coming in, graduate, you used to have classes that were typically all around about 50 kids. And now you're seeing some bubbles where they're dropping quite significantly. So just something to keep in mind, especially those two schools. So we just wanted, as we move through the final season. So we're at 1,880 total right now.
I'm not kind of surprised with the Plymouth and Buffalo Hill, because we're one of the larger.
Yeah, so for instance, like your
The demographic drops. we're gonna drop
your
more.
kindergarten class is at 27, 26, and Hampton's at 25. And there's usually a significant difference between those two. Where, so for instance, Hampton has 33 in their first grade, and you have about 40.
Yeah.
So it's just a couple flips that are pretty low. So just something.
Does everyone notice that we're not hearing the custodians?
Jeez, don't do that.
And they're not-
I know.
I'm under the table all of a sudden.
Sorry. I'm gonna send you a,
There has been a ton of laws passed.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Legislative, session, as you know, I'm just gonna give you a few highlights. There's obviously, you know, some culture differences and some controversy, with many of them. There's hundreds of new laws. I'm not gonna go over all of them tonight. I'm gonna give you like the top 10. There's at least 15 that has to do with elections and.
There's 30, actually.
There's 30,
Yeah.
so I knew at least, so I'm not going over those. You're gonna have meeting pictures. She's gonna implement that at the town. Couple of things. So the first, one is parental notification. So I'm just gonna read through some of the notes and they have changed over the past few weeks and days, and basically, in parental notification of curriculum course materials and parental notification policies. So this is effective September 17th, which already requires school districts to enact a policy which requires the school district or classroom teacher to provide parents or legal guardians not less than 2 weeks advance notice of any curriculum course material. That includes human sexuality, human sex education. It will now require the policy to add sexual orientation, gender, gender identity, gender expression to the list of topics which notice is required. The policy must acknowledge that no notice is required if the school employee is responding to a question from a student in class. The difference between delivering curriculum or just responding to a question, so. Interesting. Women in school sports, so this has been all over the news. One, it's, you know, there is a lawsuit at the high school that's pretty public that relates to this law. So HB 1205, which is women's school sports, that which was effective August 18th, a few weeks ago, at a public high school in which any combination of 9 through 12 are taught, or a public middle school in which any combination of grades 5 through 8 are taught. All interscholastic sports and club athletics teams must be designated as male, female, or co-ed, and athletic teams or sports designated for female, women, or girls shall not be open to students of the male sex. The sex of the student shall be determined by their original biological sex on their birth certificate. So something that's a new piece that we've had to add in. If you do not follow this law, the statute does open it up for any suit against the district. Now I'm trying to summarize it as best as I can. So it establishes a private cause of action for any relief available under the law against the school district for any student who feels deprived of an athletic opportunity or suffers any direct or indirect harm as a result of knowingly violating the law or retaliating against an individual who reports the violation. Any school that suffers any direct or indirect harm as a violation of the RSA shall have a private cause of action for any relief under the law against the government entity, licensing, accreditation organization, or athletic association. So it's pretty big. It's been out there. It's in litigation right now. I'm not sure where it's gonna go from here. So, and what I said to many news outlets that we are following what we're told to do. So, by the court system. So that's where that's at.
Kyla, can you tell me, is that just for sports that, compete against other schools?
It's for it's for your female designated sport only. For instance, volleyball. And you can only play girls teams, and you can only have girls on the team.
Okay.
Female designated. Co-ed, anybody can play co-ed, which most of our elementary schools have mostly co-ed because there's not a lot of kids. But Plymouth being one of the bigger schools has designated female sports, so.
Okay.
That explains it. It's all of our sports, unless they're intramural, are playing against other teams
Okay.
outside of school.
Is that impacting any of our students?
Not Plymouth Elementary.
Not that we're aware.
No.
Not that we are aware.
Mhm. So it's one of those, you can't win on either side of it. So,
It sounds horrendous.
yeah, they've got to figure it out in the court system, they really.
Switching gears, AEDs and sports-related injuries. It will be required as of next year. That obviously that they're readily accessible, but the plan. And it's under this for, I don't know why, but that you have the AEDs, but that in grades 6 through 12, an individual trained in CPR must supervise organized school-sponsored activities. Luckily, all of our coaches are already certified, so we don't have to do anything with this law, and so we have that personnel already on staff. Literacy skills development in elementary schools, they spell out exactly what we have to teach now. Luckily, the new reading program or the literacy initiative we have going on covers all that, all of it and more. So we're good. And that's beginning July 1st, July 30th, 2024, but really beginning July 1st, 2027, as far as monitoring. So beyond that. As far as instruction in national state history, so it's required that we teach civics. Now it's required that we specifically teach about elections, and roles, opportunities and responsibilities of a citizen to engage in civic activity. So
This year we are teaching in 6th grade.
Amy did volunteer services.
I did,
at the
and
high
I
school,
will
so
volunteer
there you go.
again. I'm happy to get young,
Volunteer.
I'm
here.
happy to get young people excited about the process.
Where was civics taught previously? What grade levels?
Civics is at the high school level, it's just a
Right, the high
class,
school.
but it's
Well, we,
integrated.
fourth grade.
Fourth grade. yeah,
Fourth
the state
grade is
history.
part of state government. And, you know, we, as you know, think about sort of grade spans here. So we do a 3, 4, 5. So we hit it in 4th grade, then we're gonna hit it again in 6th grade,
Okay.
right now. Obviously, government is a part of social studies in 7th and 8th grade too. I think more in 8th grade is US history than 7th grade. 7th grade is more world history, so
Yeah.
we're hitting it repeatedly.
The next is episodes of treatment, so this is a little bit different it's more about temporary placements for students under the Department of Health and Human Services. It's kind of a new terminology. If Department of Health and Human Services takes one of our kids and places them in a hospital or a treatment facility, we were paying that portion of the bill. The law says now the DHHS is placing the student there for this episode of treatment, which is a 45 to 90 day evaluation of a child. The bill's on that, not the school. So it's a little relief to us.
That's great.
I'm concerned that it may deter them from placing anybody,
Mhm.
but that's just little experience. Let's see, EpiPens. So this, again, shifts topics all over the place. Effective May 14th, 2024. The school district must maintain an annual reporting summarizing the use of EpiPens, and the school board shall authorize the school nurse to maintain an adequate supply of EpiPens in the office. So there we
The
go.
nurse
I think.
would get the EpiPen,
Well, is that basically saying that schools have to purchase them?
yeah,
'Cause they
Oh,
are-
yes,
They are
yes,
expensive,
that's absolutely.
right?
yeah.
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 They, they only last.
Where we.
I
we
think
don't
you
have
could
to
only
pay for
get an
something we pay for.
EpiPen with the
Right.
prescription.
So
Parent doesn't.
you
fill
have to have an
prescription.
adequate. supply.
Or if they send
No,
a
but
child
how
to
does
go
the
to
school get it
school,
if you need
but I
prescription?
could see us needing
Full of
something
peds, I
here,
guess.
but.
We're good,
But
we're
they're
good, we have great relationship
nurse.
here, we have great nurse, we've got that taken care of.
This one's pretty easy, prohibition of registered sex offenders from working or volunteering with the minor. So we've been doing background checks, but you know, it's everyone across the board and we put a policy in place years ago, even with our contractors that were on site, the schools are on site to get background checks. So we're already doing that. Storage of firearms by employees. So, if the statute applies, the employer cannot prohibit an employee who may legally possess a firearm from storing a firearm in the employee's vehicle while entering or exiting the employee's property, or while the vehicle is parked on the employer's property, as long as the vehicle is locked and the firearm or ammunition is not visible. Or to take any adverse action against any employee who stores a firearm or ammunition for the statute. Not sure really how we're supposed to monitor all of that, but
Yeah.
that's, it's a new law.
That applies to all schools, even like the universities, just out of
It
curiosity.
says all. The statute applies to any public or private employer that receives federal funds, who receive public funds from federal or state government, so yes, for the state would be under that.
Excuse me, wasn't it that it had to be displayed before or something? Like I remember somebody in a truck at the high school would
The
have a
high
gun.
school kids used to be allowed to bring their hunting.
Yeah, they'd have them in
guns to school.
yeah.
On the racks.
But this is,
Right.
has to
Yeah.
If
be,
you transport them, they're supposed to be seen.
That's
what
I thought.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think how they
Out of
catch
sight
it
law,
is
yeah.
they see them in people's cars, because they're out in the open, right, if you're doing
Yeah.
it correctly.
But it is clear that this statute shall not be construed to authorize employees to carry a firearm in any place where carrying a firearm is prohibited by law. All kinds of stuff. Right to know law. So a lot of districts are getting inundated with right to know requests, whether it be minutes, records, whatever it may be. We luckily have not been bombarded with it, but basically we can charge people after they exceed 250 requests.
What?
Um,
That's a lot of requests.
it is, some SAUs are going under because of it, because there's so many requests, because it could be somebody from anywhere, not necessarily New Hampshire,
So they're
so.
basically trying to push them to post everything online.
There's a new hairstyle discrimination law, basically saying you cannot discriminate, obviously, because of somebody's race and the way they have their hair. So,
Or hair covering, it said.
yeah, hair covering, yeah. And then holiday designations, if you list holidays on your calendar, they must match what the state says it has to match. So the listed holidays must include naming Columbus Day, Thanksgiving, and Christmas Day. Has to be on the calendar, so. in other
If
words,
you have
like,
anything.
you can't put like indigenous peoples, that you can put both, I assume, but you have to put Columbus Day, and you have to put Christmas on your calendar. I don't know,
If it just says holiday, it's okay, but if you're going to name it something, it has to include those specific words, which ours.
it has to be on the, if you have those holidays, it has to be on there. So,
it's a
That-
school rule now,
that's
it's
just
a law
state-
that applies to schools.
correct.
This is state rules.
This is what
Yeah,
these
this is
elected
what,
officials
yes,
spend their time doing.
No.
yeah, you know. I'm not making it up. Lastly, I'll finish with this one. Harm or threats to sports officials. So again, you can see it's all kind of reactive to what goes on during the year.
Yeah.
Basically, a person may be convicted now for going after sports officials on the field and can be banned from basically fields for a lifetime or from games, given some of the acts that have happened. So
Good.
that's how I look at it. Those are the highlights. There's many more that, if they come up, I will let you know, but there's a lot of action down at the state level, so feel free to get involved. Else we're just victims to implementation.
That's crazy.
I did want you guys to know, in the paper thing, we're missing a page 10, but it's in the digital
Oh,
thing, in the last ACAC
We are.
thing,
Thank you for that.
but it's in the digital one. I just looked at
Got
it.
caught up with all the paper.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah. this is the one.
There is a lot.
I hope we don't have
This
to
is
be
page
tested
10.
on this.
Yeah, on the ACAC also.
If we are, yeah.
That's all I have.
Other business, just FYI that on November 4th, I will not be at the school board meeting because I will be setting up for the presidential election. So
oh, you
Yeah.
think that could be?
I will, just, it might be kind of busy. So I will not be at that school board meeting.
But I will.
Fran will run it for me, just as a general FYI. I got put my other hat on.
Is that what we do when we're not gonna be here? I won't be here at the next
Yeah,
I'm just telling you.
yeah. That's good.
But we need to have.
We have to have a quorum.
She's talking about
I-
October, I'm
October.
talking about
I'm
November.
talking about November. Yeah.
I will not get November.
Everyone
Do we
else-
change
now we
the
have
date?
three.
We have three.
That's a quorum.
I'd rather,
Hmm.
my schedule, I have other.
I'm just-
It's a, three of you is a quorum.
We should. meet.
Right, but if
Three of us,
something
if you have a
happens,
quorum,
Yeah.
you're
but
fine.
we need to be aware, because if something happens,
Right.
that one of us
There
is.
should be.
Yeah, let me
Or
know
can't
if
be
you
here.
guys, if some of you can't make it as we get closer, then if I see that there's only two of you that can make it, we'll just reschedule with plenty of time to notify the public.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Thanks. All right, privilege of the floor number 2.
Put a clarification question on the Plymouth numbers. Did you say it was because we had a larger eighth grade graduating class and a smaller kindergarten class, or is it a mix?
No, there's some bubbles, there's some
Okay.
peaks and valleys right now. I'm not sure the explanation, to be quite honest. I know,
I think-
I do know your kindergarten class flow. That's significantly small for Plymouth.
Actually, we used to even have, I mean, many classes with 60 kids in a grade. Not even that, in the last 10 years, we've had multiple classes with 60 or mid-50s. And we now have multiple classes under 40. So that's,
I just, as I was watching the custodian, and I couldn't hear him, but I could see him. Is this glass bulletproof or? is
it
that-
is,
Resistant.
it's resistant.
Okay.
It is not bulletproof, it is resistant.
Okay, so it's not like a safe space.
You wouldn't want to come to a place
No.
that has a bunch of windows.
Yeah.
So I
Just-
wouldn't
was just
consider the
curious.
library a safe space
Just curious.
in an event like
The
that.
door's locked.
All right, did everybody sign the manifest?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Did we receive any correspondence?
No.
Okay, we need a motion to go into non-public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor going into non-public?
Aye.
Any opposed? All
Thank
right,
you, everybody.
thanks for coming.
Thank you.
So Harper.